Welcome back to Queen Bee Nomads. We finished a month of sailing in the Bahamas and are now cruising the ICW from Florida to Virginia, then spending time in Maryland to explore the Chesapeake Bay and all of its small towns, along with Annapolis. This episode covers the rest of Florida, which includes the oldest city in the U.S. and U.S. Naval submarines as we leave Amelia Island, so stay tuned. On the boat, we wake up early, and I can watch the sunrise while enjoying my morning coffee. We have the pleasure of spending each day in the sun, for the most part, and the rain holds off until the evenings, if any. The only battle of the day is that early morning time frame at the helm, where the morning sun is almost too hot to stand there. But we cannot use the autopilot in the ICW. It goes crazy on us, and since there are plenty of narrow spots, it isn't wise for us to use it. So we usually spend around 8 hours motoring each day that we move. That seems to cover about 40 to 50 nautical miles. It is common courtesy to wave to the other cruisers, so there's a lot of waving. We sometimes hear people yell out, "Canada!" We even have these fellow Canadians talk, or should I say yell at us from their boat to say hi. But for the most part, we are the only Canadians that we see on this journey. But, well, there is a bigger reason why. We probably don't need to spell out that reason. Here's our route on the US East Coast so far, and this orange travel line represents 4 full days of motoring, while we anchor for each evening in a different location.
It's 5:30, coming into St. Augustine right now. The scenery has kind of changed a little bit. A lot of commercial fishing boats up here, so it should be interesting to see what the rest of St. Augustine is like.
This is our spot in St. Augustine for the couple of days that we anchored and walked around. The anchorage had strong currents, but nothing like we had experienced in Fort Pierce. We are anchored right out front of the fort. Such a cool spot. We're in St. Augustine. We're just pulling up to the dinghy dock. It's $15 for us to park here, but it's the most conveniently located for us to walk around the city. We're in St. Augustine, the continental U.S.'s oldest city, founded in 1565. We're going to do a tour right now, a self-guided tour. Using AI and Google Maps is what I mean. Right on King Street, you'll stumble across these old iron cannons guarding the Plaza de la Constitucion. They actually used to sit on the walls of the fort down the road, defending the city from real naval sieges. But if you walk just 1 block further down, the scenery transforms. Suddenly, you're standing between 2 architectural giants staring each other down across the street. Back in the late 1880s, standard brick and wood weren't enough for oil tycoon Henry Flagler. He wanted a winter playground for America's ultra-wealthy. He built both of these as rival mega luxury resorts, using a brand new technique at the time, pouring solid concrete mixed with local coquina shell fragments to give them that distinct, unshakable Spanish Renaissance look. This is St. George Street, the beating heart of St. Augustine's historic district. It's completely pedestrian-only, tightly packed, and beautifully narrow, designed centuries ago to keep the sun out and the walkways cool. Today, it's a sensory overload in the best way possible. You've got old-world Spanish taverns sitting right next to modern artesian sweet shops, historic gastropubs, and boutiques. As you walk down the path, make sure to look up at the overhanging wooden balconies, which are classic examples of Spanish-colonial design. Then, guarding the edge of the inlet, you have the crown jewel of the city, the Castillo de San Marcos, built by the Spanish between 1672 and 1695. This is the oldest masonry fort in the continental United States, but its real claim to fame is what it's made of, a rare local limestone called coquina, which is essentially millions of tiny ancient seashells, naturally cemented together over thousands of years. When the British attacked and bombarded the fort with cannonballs, the coquina didn't shatter. Because it's relatively soft and porous, it literally absorbed the cannonballs like a giant stone sponge, trapping the shells inside the walls and leaving the fort completely structural. It has survived centuries of sieges, changed hands between imperial powers multiple times, and it has never once been taken by force.
We are surrounded by party boats here in St. Augustine. It's a good thing they have good music going.
Try with me, here we go.
So we fueled up and it was $380 US. But that's nothing because this other boat in front of us, that massive guy, he's still pumping and he's at $6,000 so far. US. Yeesh. We're on our way to the last stop in Florida, Fernandina Beach, Amelia Island. It's Memorial Long Weekend here, and look at the stream of boats passing us. We're anchored right near this pulp mill. Phil says he loves the smell of Fernandina.
Or it reminds me of Hurricane and Catamaran. Just a lovely smell.
Here at the waterfront, you're looking at the gateway to a town that has lived 8 lives, literally. This is the only place in the United States that has flown 8 different national flags. French, Spanish, British, the Green Cross of Florida, the Confederacy, you name it, they've occupied this harbor. But let's start walking up Center Street. This isn't the original town. Old Town Fernandina is actually a mile north. It was the last Spanish city ever platted in the Western Hemisphere back in 1811. When you look at the roof lines of the boutiques and cafes we're passing, you'll notice this striking Victorian architecture with elaborate trim, Italianate brickwork, and steep gables. Feels more like a turn-of-the-century New England seaside village than a typical Florida beach town, doesn't it? This is their historic courthouse. This courthouse is from 1891. We're just leaving Amelia Island in Fernandina. We came across Naval submarines that are guarded by patrol boats, and we aren't able to get closer to them, probably not even allowed to film them. Currently a storm chasing us from behind. Thanks for watching until the end. We travel through Georgia in our next episode, which is possibly my favorite state, with southern charm, lush marshlands, and really good smokehouse dinners. Subscribe so you don't miss the journey. See you in the next one.